Getting lunch right can be one of the toughest challenges of the day. Most of us are busy and want something quick, delicious, healthy, and cheap. What many people don't realize is that vegan meals can easily check all of these boxes. So that's why I'm going to show you 3 incredibly easy plant-based lunches that are nutritious, tasty, and only need 3 ingredients. Alright, so the first one we're going to make is this chili. It's full of flavor and packed with nutrition that will keep you going throughout the day. So the 3 ingredients are beans. You can use any, I'm using these mixed today, and you can find canned beans in any grocery store nowadays. The next ingredient is a bit of a secret ingredient. It's textured vegetable protein, which is an absolute game changer when it comes to meatless recipes. It absorbs flavors beautifully, and just 1 cup has 30 grams of protein. If you've never heard about it, no worries. It's super easy to order off Amazon, and it's dirt cheap, and if you're lucky, you can find it in a specialty store. And lastly, tomato sauce. So this one is just tomato sauce, but you can get it with some other ingredients. Depends on what you're looking for nutrition-wise and flavor-wise. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is start heating up the tomato sauce. I use about 3/4 of the jar. You wanna add some water to thin the sauce a bit, and then you wanna add some salt and pepper. I actually used a bouillon cube instead, or instead of any of that, you could just use vegetable stock. And for the sake of this video, I'm not counting salt, pepper, water, stock, or bouillon as ingredients. Anyways, you really don't need to wait that long before you can put in the TVP, which is what I'm gonna call the textured vegetable protein from now on, and start mixing it all in. I used about a cup, which is like 60 or 70 grams. So TVP needs to be rehydrated. So what's gonna happen here is it's going to absorb the liquid, which was why we needed to thin it earlier. You basically just need enough liquid for the absorption to happen. And after rehydration, TVP takes on a texture that's very close to ground beef. As a matter of fact, in Mexico, it's actually called carne de soya, or soy meat. And Mexican moms know they can swap out ground beef for TVP and the kids won't even notice. You can also find it in different sizes, like larger chunks or smaller ones. Plus, it's super high in protein. It's literally 50% protein. I only started adding it recently to my diet because I didn't know of many other people using it, and I'm still shocked by how easy it is to include in meals. Anyways, you don't need to wait that long for the TVP to become soft. A few minutes will do. Then you can strain the beans and pour them in. Now y'all know I love beans. Not only are they delicious, but they're legumes, meaning they will keep you living long and happy. They count as a serving of legumes for Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen, and they're full of protein, fiber, and iron. I try to eat legumes in at least 1 meal a day, if not 2. After you've mixed it all together and let it cook for a bit, you can serve. And there you go. Now you have a hearty chili. This chili has an insane 58 grams of protein and 38 grams of fiber. That's what happens when you mix beans and TVP. The fiber number is especially impressive because the average person in the US is fiber deficient and only gets around 15 grams a day. So just this one meal gives you more than double that. Plus, the tomato sauce counts as a serving of veggies too. Another reason to feel good about this meal is that by using TVP instead of something like ground beef, you take out the cholesterol of the meal, you severely cut down on the saturated fat, and you even save 45 gallons or 170 liters of water. And that's all from a single meal. Beef uses a lot of water, y'all. So good. So this next meal that we're gonna make is gonna be creamy lentils. Like the chili, it's super easy, cheap, delicious, and incredibly healthy. So the ingredients you'll need are canned lentils or any form of pre-cooked lentils. Canned lentils aren't as common as the other canned legumes, so you could swap it out for another legume, no problem. I just can't get over how cheap canned beans always are. Hummus. You can usually find this in most grocery stores nowadays. Spinach or any leafy green. I'm in France, so they use mash a lot, but any dark leafy green will work. Please no iceberg lettuce. And if you use a bitter one like arugula, just keep in mind you'll need to cook it a bit more to remove the bitterness or pre-treat it with an acid like lemon juice or vinegar. So now let's put all these high quality ingredients together into a delicious meal. Put the lentils into a pan. You can leave some of the liquid. I actually recommend that for what comes next. But the lentils add so much protein to the dish and more importantly, fiber, just like the beans and the chili. They're also legumes, so they check those off in the Daily Dozen, and besides being shown to help people live longer, consumption of lentils helps people feel more full and eat fewer calories in their next meals. In a world where it can be hard to manage our weight, lentils can help a lot with that. I even remember in Mexico once, I had this amazing torta for breakfast, but a few hours later, I was already hungry. The next morning though, I was in a rush and I had a small bowl of lentils for breakfast, and I didn't feel any hunger until around 2 p.m. So yeah, lentils are super satiating. Anyways, next, put in the hummus. You can use the whole tub of 200 grams or half, whatever kind of thickness you're looking for. Just mix it in with the liquid. And it's okay if it's a little liquidy at first because it's gonna cook down. So the hummus is gonna bring the dish together. It's a fat source for the dish because it's made from tahini, as well as the other oils they've added to it, and it's going to add a ton of flavor to the dish. Also, the tahini will count as a serving of nuts and seeds for the daily dozen. Hummus is also made of chickpeas, so it's got some protein, a bit of fiber, and also counts towards your legumes for the daily dozen. And after a bit, you can put in some of the greens. It looks like a lot at first, but for anyone who's experienced with cooking, you know that it'll wilt to almost nothing in a couple of minutes. So these are going to bring essential nutrients to the dish. And not only that, dark leafy greens are the food group associated with the strongest protection against major chronic diseases. So we should try to be eating as much of these as we can. Anyways, here's the part where you might need to leave it in a bit longer if you're using a bitter dark leafy green like arugula or kale. Mash isn't bitter, so I didn't wait that long. I just waited until it looked wilted enough and then I served it. This meal has a whopping 40 grams of protein and 27 grams of fiber, which again puts you above what the average person in the US consumes in a day with just one meal. Not to mention this meal is huge for longevity because it's got legumes and dark leafy greens. Plus it's so creamy, delicious, and took 5 minutes to make. And it's dirt cheap. This will cost you around $2 to $4 per serving, and it's also great for batch cooking. All right, our third meal is gonna be a pasta. I love this meal because it's pasta. Who doesn't love pasta? It's a bit creamy, it's got crunch, plus it's a nutrition monster. The ingredients are gonna be whole wheat pasta. I'm gonna use spaghetti. Now I really recommend using whole wheat for this. Make sure it's just the single ingredient on the box because remember y'all, long ingredient list will kill you. No, I'm just kidding, that's not true. But I'll explain why whole wheat in a second. All right, broccoli, this is gonna serve as our veggie for the meal. It's got a little bit of protein too and a lot of other micronutrients like iron. Avocado, finally, the avocado is gonna be our fat source for this meal. All right, let's get started. So set the water to boil, flavor it with a bouillon cube or salt and pepper, or just use vegetable stock instead of water. Don't be afraid to taste it while you're making it to make sure the salt is good or the levels are good. It depends on the ingredients you buy, like how much flavor they have, how much salt they already have added, so don't just take my word for it. I think it needs a little bit of salt actually. In the meantime, you can cut the broccoli. I prefer to cut the bits a bit smaller so you don't get these massive chunks. Broccoli is also a cruciferous vegetable, meaning it has unique cancer-fighting properties, and it checks off a serving of cruciferous vegetables from the daily dozen. All right, here we go. Nuh-uh-uh. You don't do that. If by this point your water is boiling, you can add the whole wheat pasta. I used about 1/3 of the package or 150 grams. Like I was mentioning before, I find myself enjoying whole wheat pasta even more now than regular pasta. I just love the bite and texture of it. Plus the fiber is hugely important for your health and it'll keep you full. It's gotta be a little bit more bendy than that. This amount of pasta has around 12 grams of fiber. It's also gonna serve as a substantial calorie source for the meal, a healthy carb source for the meal, and a protein source for the meal. People don't realize this, but whole wheat pasta is pretty good for protein. Just with this serving, that's 20 grams of protein. Plus, it counts as a whole grain for the daily dozen. So while the pasta is boiling, you can prepare the avocado. You wanna cut it into these little chunks. Like I mentioned, avocados are a great source of fat. And you might not know this, but having fats in our diet helps us absorb many fat-soluble nutrients like vitamin A, E, and K that our bodies need to function. Plus, avocado has vitamin E, which is a less common nutrient. So flavor it with some salt and pepper. As a bonus, you can add lemon juice as well. I know, this is breaking the ingredient rule for sure, but it's just an optional part. So with the pasta, I don't usually use a timer. I just kind of test it while it's cooking. And once the pasta only has a few minutes left, you can drop the broccoli in. I ended up only using about half the broccoli I cut and saved the rest. You'll notice broccoli when cooked gets really green before going bland. So only leave it in for like a minute or two, then drain the pasta. You can leave a little bit of pasta water in for flavor and texture. Then put it all together, mix it in, and you've got this beauty. This meal is so good and comes in at 29 grams of protein, 27 grams of fiber, again, putting you over the amount the average person in the US gets in a day. It's got your daily servings of cruciferous veggies and whole grains, and like all vegan meals, it has 0 cholesterol, and by getting 20 grams of protein from pasta instead of something like pork, you're saving 100 liters of water, or 25 gallons of water, with just one meal. These 3 meals can take you far, but you can seriously increase the variety in your diet even more by learning how to come up with easy dishes like these yourself. So check out this video so you can learn the simple way to build the perfect vegan plate every time.